We spend so much of our lives trying to understand, looking for signs from the universe, from our environment, from people in our lives. But what if all you really needed to see those signs was a tool? Hi there, and welcome to Beyond the Shuffle. I'm Adrienne Amari, your host, guide, and tarot lover. This podcast is a cozy rabbit hole where tarot leads the way into curiosity, self-reflection, and the beautiful mess of being human. So settle in, open your mind, and let's go beyond the shuffle. Happy New Year! Welcome to 2026, the year of the Wheel of Fortune, which I talked about in the last episode if you've missed it. But I hope that you had a lovely holiday. I hope that you were able to welcome in the new year with fun, love, and some great intentions. At the end of 2025, I attended a manifestation party for 2026, and on New Year's Eve, one of my closest friends and I worked on our vision boards or manifestation journals for the year, so I am really excited to see what energy unfolds, not only because of that, but I feel like that's always an exciting time to dig into things and start planning out what you want or hope to accomplish. But that is not the main theme of what I want to talk about today on Beyond the Shuffle. I want to talk about my what and why of tarot. It's not something I've actually discussed in any great detail. I think I made a blog article on it years ago, but I feel like for the new year, for this podcast still being new, now's the time. So why tarot? And it's kind of a funny question to me. I actually got asked this numerous times at events that I was reading cards at in December. Why do you read tarot? How did you get into this? What is this? And those are all very valid questions. My why for tarot is because, honestly, I just love it. I am someone who tries everything and sticks with very little, and tarot is something I've always come back to, and for me that means something. I love the stories in the cards. I love how our meanings change and evolve and develop, and we add more layers over time and over experience. I love collecting decks and seeing all the different ways that people around the world interpret these archetypes and these pictures. And while I love the deep, symbolic, insightful, meaningful side of the tarot, I also like the part of it that's fun. Because tarot, it started off as a game, and I think so many people who get into it forget to have fun with the cards. So yes, it can be deep and meaningful, but we need a little bit of play in our lives too. And I'll talk more later about how we can incorporate play into the tarot. But the biggest question that I get asked when I'm out and about doing all of this tarot stuff is, how did you get started in this to begin with? So let me tell you my story, and I do want to preface this by saying that I never had some big spiritual awakening, and for a long time, this is something that made me feel a little bit like a fraud as a tarot reader. I never had some big life event that shook me to my core, the light didn't open and the clarity didn't just flash through. A lot of my spiritual development, personal development, my journey through all of this has been out of curiosity, exploration, and the desire to learn more. So if you're like me and you feel like you're a very spiritual person and you feel like you're quite awake, but you haven't had that big lightning strike moment, there's no shame in that. It doesn't mean you're behind. It doesn't mean you're less further advanced or further along your path. It doesn't mean that your experiences are invalid or less meaningful from people who have been shaken to their core. I think we all take our own journeys in the way we're meant to experience them. Some are like a flower slowly opening, and some are like an earthquake shaking the ground you walk on. But I do want you to know that no matter what experience you've had, especially when it comes to sort of a spiritual awakening, it's all valid, so don't discount yourself and don't feel less than. Okay, so there's my feel-good moment of the podcast, and it just gives you kind of an idea of where I'm coming from. But let's go back to my story of how I got into tarot, and it starts way back when I was in grade 6. I had the most phenomenal homeroom teacher. He was creative, he was passionate, he was just an amazing human, an amazing teacher. And he made this classroom currency called whales and encouraged us all to go home one day and think of a job that we could provide in the classroom to earn whales. And I had no ideas. I went home, I asked my parents, and my dad said to me, well, why don't you learn how to read these tarot cards and then you can tell your classmates their fortunes? And my dad went down to the basement and he brought back up this deck of tarot cards and this big, thick, hardcover book, and he gave them to me. And he explained a little bit about what they were, but he himself had only dabbled. He wasn't really into reading per se. So I started looking through the cards, I started flipping through the book, and of course, one of the first cards I came across was the devil. And if you think this is when I picked up tarot, let me tell you, it was not, because I had watched The Exorcist when I was far, far too young to see that movie. So 11-year-old me saw that devil card and thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to be possessed. I closed the book, I put away the cards, and I wouldn't come back to tarot until many, many years later. And while I didn't get into tarot at that age, I did grow up knowing what it was. And throughout the years, I would see things about tarot come up every now and then and think, oh, it's those cards, and then kind of just move on with my day. It was about 11 years ago when I moved from Japan back to Canada that tarot just really struck a chord with me, and that's when I got into it, and that's when it stuck. And I really feel like I found tarot at a time when I needed it. I was ready and happy to move back to Canada, but I don't think I expected it to be as disorienting as it was. So I had lived in Japan for 5 years, and then I moved back to Canada. I moved in with my parents. I went back to the job that I had while I was in high school, and I just felt so lost. I no longer knew who I was. I didn't really have a strong sense of identity. I felt like I had lived a whole different lifetime in a foreign country and then come back, but everyone had gone on with their lives and I was kind of stuck in this weird limbo. And for a long time, the desire to move to Japan and to live there was a huge part of who I was and what I wanted for my future, and I had done that. So it was kind of like, now what? Now who am I? What am I supposed to be doing here? And part of me is cringing a little bit on the inside to admit this, but I was part of a Sailor Moon fan forum back then. I'm still a big Sailor Moon fan, grew up on it, grew up loving it. And on this fan forum, there was a girl offering tarot readings with the Light Visions tarot deck. And like I said, I knew what tarot was. I've always been into this kind of stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm curious. Like, what does she have to say? Pull a few cards for me. And she was just learning, so she was happy to do so. But it intrigued me so much. And I was like, I need to learn more about this. I'm ready for this now. And I honestly cannot tell you at all what the reading was or if it resonated or anything like that, but it really sparked that curiosity. And I was like, excellent, I have a new thing to learn, to focus my energy, to focus my intention on. And did I think it would be so transformational at the time? Definitely not. But I picked up a deck and I started learning. I painstakingly went through hundreds of decks to see what the right one for me would be. And I remembered the old deck my dad has. We have no idea where that got to now, but I ended up ordering a copy of the Prismavisions Tarot. And if you follow me at all, you'll know that I talk all the time about the Prismavisions Tarot because it's still one of my favorite tarot decks to this day. And when my deck came, I went through the guidebook. I had a whole bunch of different websites that I was referencing. I got a few books and I started writing down the keywords. And honestly, it was pretty overwhelming at first because with tarot, there's a lot to learn. I remember thinking I would never remember what all these cards mean. I would never remember the order of the major arcana. And I actually went as far as writing down all the keywords and then reading them into an audio file that I would listen to when I slept. Because I thought maybe if I listen to the keywords being repeated in my brain, it'll just seep in. Let me tell you, it does not work. It did not help me whatsoever. But I was determined. I was determined to learn how to read the tarot cards. And as I was learning to read the tarot cards, I was learning a lot about myself as well. Because when you start reading tarot, especially when you're reading for yourself, there's a lot of questions that you ask to yourself for practice. And because I was learning tarot, I was also opening myself up to explore other modalities of spiritual exploration. And that's when I got into really trying to figure out who I was and what my purpose was for being here. And that's when I started really connecting with the cards and using them to explore the different facets of myself. Now, one thing I almost never talk about just because it doesn't matter is that I'm adopted. And through this work with the tarot, I found that there were things that I was hanging on to from that part of myself that I didn't even know existed. It was things like feelings of guilt and abandonment and of not wanting to be seen that I had no idea where they came from. And through the tarot, I was able to reconcile the fact that no, maybe a lot of this isn't actually yours. I'm hanging on to generational trauma. I'm hanging on to the trauma of being born because I was born early with a lot of different complications. And tarot helped me bring that to the surface and then heal from it as well. And I always felt bad talking about it because the parents and the family that I have are the best that I could have ever even dreamed of wanting. So there was a big part of me that felt guilty even exploring some of that. And there was a time in my life where you could honestly guilt me into doing pretty much anything. Luckily, I'm much better now, so don't take that as an invitation. But I really do chalk so much of my growth and my curiosity and my personal development to the tarot. And as much as I love being curious and exploration, I am also kind of a skeptic, which is why I think I get a lot of people who are skeptical about tarot coming to me as well. But I know if tarot can help me, then it can help you too. Now, I get a lot of people who ask me, what is this? What is tarot? And of course, you can go into the basic meaning of, oh, it's 78 cards, it's 22 majors, 56 minors, 16 court cards, 4 suits, blah, blah, blah. But tarot is a map of the human experience. You have experienced every single one of those 78 cards, at least in some way in your life. The cards are more than just 78 stories, but they are the lived experiences that we have in this crazy, wild 3D world. Tarot cards are a mirror. I always tell people I'm not here to predict the future, and I can't generally tell you something that you on some level don't already know. And the reason I'm not into predicting the future is because I think you get to decide. We have choice, we have agency over which way our future goes, and whether or not you believe in fate and destiny, I think we can agree that there might be different paths to get there. So the tarot shows you the mirror. It shows you a reflection of yourself. It shows you possibilities and opportunities. It shows you the limitlessness that we all have within us. It has stories of happiness and love and joy and fulfillment. Stories of grief and sorrow and difficulty and loss. It's filled with the lessons that we learn. Sometimes time and time again, they come back in different forms. It contains insight, guidance, advice, sometimes more questions to ask yourself, which can be frustrating. And of course, it also contains a whole lot of fun. Tarot is a tool that we can use to really see and understand ourselves, to tap into our intuition, and to hopefully enjoy what we're doing here and have more clarity as we move forward towards a purpose that fulfills us. And maybe you're listening to this and thinking, Adrienne, it's just a pack of cards, calm down. And maybe it is. But maybe it's also so much more, because it's not the tarot cards that are magic. It never was. It's you that's the magic. It's your energy. It's your experience. It's your life that you imbue into the cards that brings the magic out of them. And I think that's probably the most exciting part. And I think it's really important to realize that not every tarot reading or every tarot card pull that you do is going to be big and meaningful. Sometimes it's just the silly everyday life that we go through. And one of my favorite examples of this is I used to do a daily card pull. I say used to because I just don't have the consistency to say that I do that all the time now. But when I was learning, I was doing a daily card pull. So before work one morning, I shuffled up my deck, I pulled a card, and I got the Tower. Now, the Tower is generally a card of chaos, upheaval, destruction, unexpected things, the universe just coming in and knocking over your little Jenga tower. So I'm getting ready for work. I'm a little bit on edge, a little bit nervous. I am super careful on my drive there. I go through the drive-thru at Tim Hortons. I get my chocolate chip muffin, my Earl Grey tea. I make it to work on time. So far, nothing bad has happened. I settle in, open my bag to eat my muffin, and I see that they gave me a blueberry muffin instead of chocolate chip. And I sat there and I laughed. And just in my gut, I knew this was my ridiculous tower moment. My dumb blueberry muffin, which I don't really like, when I wanted chocolate chip. And to me, that was the universe's way, or my subconscious's way of saying, Adrian, it's not always that serious. Unclench, have a little fun, because sometimes it's just a blueberry muffin. And that was a bit of a turning point for me because I had been so serious about what tarot was, what tarot meant, what it could do. And here it's showing me that sometimes we just have to laugh at ourselves and have a little bit of fun. So I started to really approach the cards through curiosity, through how can we make this more fun? How can we make this more relatable? And not just a bunch of meanings that we stack onto cards. So whether you're learning to read tarot, you already read tarot, or you just get readings, know that it's okay to have fun with it too. One of my favorite readings that I do are with a friend who is also an author, and we do these brainstorming readings. We look into the characters and the story, and it is so much fun. So tarot can be creative. I've used tarot to design a D&D character before as well. You can use it to be silly and decide what from your Amazon shopping list you're going to buy today. It can spark ideas for what do I want to fill my time doing today. You can use the cards to understand people in your life better, to connect with your pets even, to create stories, and to get your imagination flowing. And the cards should never be a crutch. That's not the purpose, but they should be there to help you reflect, to help you ask questions, and to help you see what's possible. Now I'm going to throw an opinion in here that I know can be quite contentious in the tarot world. And I've had people come online and tell me I'm wrong about all of this, so you decide what's right for you. But the question revolves around third-party readings. Should we use tarot cards to read into what somebody else not involved in the query thinks or feels? And to be 100% honest, I have done it before, but it always feels icky and horrible afterwards. And I'll tell you why. I don't like using tarot to pry into somebody else's thoughts or feelings for a couple reasons. First and foremost, I wouldn't want someone doing that to me. I don't know about you, but my thoughts and feelings about things changes like the wind sometimes. So tapping in at a certain moment to what I think or feel and using that as a definitive answer about my, again, thoughts or feelings about somebody is really unfair. You're basically just putting words in somebody else's mouth without the context of the entire situation, and I just feel like that's really wrong. I also feel like it's super disempowering. So let's say somebody comes up and they say, well, I want to know what my crush thinks about me. And you pull a few cards and it looks like, oh, well, they're not really thinking about you at all. Does that mean that this person doesn't stand a chance with their crush? No, maybe their crush doesn't really know who they are, or they have other things on their mind. But now this person probably takes it as, oh, well, they don't like me because they're not thinking about me. And then they don't even give it a shot. And tarot readers, myself included, of course, are not perfect. We make mistakes. We can misinterpret things. So I just feel like asking or prying into somebody else's life and not making the reading about yourself is kind of pointless. And that's not to say we can't use the cards to explore relationships. I think that's totally fair and really helpful. Like, how can we make this relationship work? What are the challenges in this relationship? How can we better communicate? Like, there are definitely ways to use the tarot for working with other people and working with the relationships in our lives. But asking, what does he think about me, isn't the best one, let's be real. And I have seen so many people get feral about this in Facebook comments. Like, they are angry to have people disagreeing and telling them that it's wrong because they do it with good intentions. And they don't do it to hurt anybody. You can be as good intentioned as you wish, but putting words or thoughts in someone's mouth is still wrong. And we'll talk in future episodes about the ethics of tarot reading because I've made mistakes there too, I'm not gonna lie. But for today's episode, we had some good feelings, we had my origin story, and we had a little bit of a rant. So I feel like we've checked almost all of our boxes. All that's left is to do a collective card pull. Now, before we get into our card pull, I do want to take a moment to talk about my new membership program, the Tarot Lab. If you're someone who's learning tarot, you've been dabbling in tarot for a while, maybe you feel like you're pretty good at it, but your practice is kind of stale and you're having a hard time getting back into it, the Tarot Lab is the right place for you. What it is, it's a masterclass series, a community, practice sessions, and lots of support from me to really hone your tarot skills. I think learning tarot should be fun, so the masterclasses every month focus on a different way to use the cards. There's a tarot practice session where you can practice and hone your skills, and office hour drop-ins where you can ask questions, get free readings, share interpretations, whatever floats your boat. The community also comes with resources that I will continue to build out as people ask for and need things, plus a monthly challenge that helps you connect with your cards. There are spreads to try, lots of support, and I would love to have you join me there. So if you're at all curious, go to adrianamari.com/thetarot-lab. And of course, I'll put the link to that in the show notes too. But I truly think tarot's an amazing tool for everyone, whether you just want to read for yourself or want to read for others as well. And I want you to feel excited to pick up your tarot deck and not feel like you have to run right to the guidebook and look up what things mean. But there's my spiel. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to me at any time. I tell people I will talk tarot forever and I'll talk tarot anytime, and I think they think I'm joking, but I'm really not. So as a reading for the collective, let's do how can connecting more with the tarot help you in your everyday life? And I'm using the Terra Volatile deck for that. It's absolutely gorgeous. You can see pictures of it in the show notes and on the Facebook page, so check it out if you haven't seen the deck before. I 100% recommend it. And as always, collective readings are take what resonates with you and leave behind the rest, because for collective readings, we do have to be discerning. And our cards this week are Strength, the Queen of Swords, and the King of Wands. So how can tarot help you in your everyday life? Strength, I love that we're running out with that one. Tarot can help you connect to your inner strength, your inner fortitude, your confidence, and your courage. Strength is a card of that inner compassion, that inner kindness. And because tarot is a mirror, that really helps us sometimes remember to reflect more of that back to ourselves. Strength is the reminder that we can overcome whatever life throws our way and to give ourselves compassion, grace, and forgiveness when that inner lion comes out biting and roaring. And that reflection time that can come with tarot can help us do all of that in such a nice, meaningful, intentional way. The Queen of Swords comes out next, and she tells us that tarot can help us be more honest with ourselves, to say what we need to say, to speak up, to advocate for ourselves in a way that feels right for us. It can help us get clarity on decisions that we need to make. And it can help us cut through the bullshit that we make up in our minds. That Queen of Swords takes no prisoners, especially in this tarot deck. If you look at the picture, you'll see she's actually holding a head from her wrist. So this is an intense queen. And that Queen of Swords nurtures those deep thoughts. And it's that level of deep thinking that we sometimes need that tarot can help us connect to. And our last card is the King of Wands, which, again, I couldn't have picked better cards. I promise I just shuffled and chose them. But the King of Wands says that tarot can help us connect to our vision, to not only connect to our bigger dreams and ambitions, but to actually help us put forth the action to make them all happen. We can use tarot as a catalyst, as a roadmap, as a way to plan, as a way to see forward. And the King of Wands is also that king who really trusts his instincts. And tarot can help us hear that and follow through with that a lot more. And all of this applies whether you get readings done for you or you read for yourself. Either way, there's so much power that lies within the cards, and I don't think if you're listening to this that I had to convince you of that, but I hope that you feel inspired and empowered after listening to my stories today. And please remember, if you enjoy the podcast, please let me know by giving it a like or a follow. You can catch me on Facebook at facebook.com/beyondtheshufflepodcast. Same thing on Instagram or at adrianamari.com/podcast. I can't wait to share more tarot with you next week, but in the interim, grab your deck, pull a card, and let me know what you got. Don't forget to stay open, stay curious, and I'll catch you next time on Beyond the Shuffle.